once you have these kind of like really dumb things happening, it just throws you out of the movie. You just stop believing. Hi, I'm Kit, and I'm going to talk about Extraction. This is a 2020 Netflix movie starring Chris Hemsworth, and it's basically your standard action thriller where Chris Hemsworth goes to Bangladesh to rescue the son of an imprisoned drug lord. It's kind of like your basic bodyguard or escape action movie. In summary, it's not very well done. If you're a Chris Hemsworth fan, if you've got really nothing better to do, it's watchable, but unfortunately it doesn't really add anything to the genre. There are already many movies in this genre. It's hard to stand out, even though in the past there have been some really good movies. For example, Man on Fire, directed by Tony Scott and starring Denzel Washington. A less well-known one would be Spartan, starring Val Kilmer. And we'll compare these two movies with Extraction to explore the range that this genre actually can have, and show why Extraction fails in comparison. Similar movies would also include many Jason Statham movies. Transporter maybe a bit, but closer would be the Jason Statham movie called Safe, where he looks after this little Chinese girl. That would be way better than Extraction. But first, let's talk about the good points. The Indian cast is good. The teenage boy that he rescues, his female colleague, should have had a lot more screen time. That would have improved the movie. The bad guy, his opponent. I'm not familiar with these actors. I don't really know much about Indian cinema, and most of these people are mainly active in Indian cinema, except for the lady, Shifteh Farahani, who's actually Persian. She has done a few Hollywood movies in the past. At first, you think that she's mainly some kind of like administrative person in the movie, but right at the end, she ends up shooting an RPG and taking out a sniper. And wow, I mean, she did it very convincingly. I think the standout in this movie would be the location. It's shot in India or Bangladesh or Pakistan. It's supposed to be set in Bangladesh, but I'm not sure where it's actually filmed. But they made a very good use of the locations. The old buildings, there's a prison, you've got these crowded streets and rundown old shop houses. It really looks authentic and different. It's not something that you normally see. Unfortunately, the cinematography, the color grading is this really ugly orange. There are also some rather strange choices. They've got this one very long action sequence, which they chose to do as a long take, an unbroken or seemingly unbroken shot. There'll be some rather fancy transitions, like the camera is on the street, it's showing this car chase, and then the camera moves inside the car and then continues on filming as the car is moving, or it would like Chris Hemsworth would fall off a balcony. The camera would also follow him down and just continue filming. I'm already not really a fan of these single takes. I find them distracting. They throw you out of the movie. They make you be aware of the camera. And you start thinking like, oh, how did they do this? You know, did they hide the cut here? Did they use CGI? Did they use a dolly? How did they hand off the camera to the second cameraman in the car and all that? So you really need a good reason to do this, and this one they didn't really seem to have a good reason. Whereas maybe like Children of Men and Birdman and maybe even 1917, which I didn't think was a good use of the long take, but at least they had a more of a reason, I feel. Whereas this one, it was it was just to show off. Yeah, so the location is the best thing. If you look at it, it's a bit of a travelogue, perhaps. But they kind of wasted it with the color grading. The action is decent, the gunfights, the hand-to-hand, but we are already spoiled by John Wick, and you can actually see his superior fighting technique very clearly in the fight choreography. So in John Wick, the fight scenes are also, in a way, character development. They help you believe that John Wick is this totally superior gunfighter. Whereas here, it's good. I mean, it's decent, but you just don't feel it. It's partly also, it's because you need a good story for you to feel anything in a fight scene. If you just have a fight scene, it can leave you cold if you're not really invested in the characters, which is the case here. There are some odd choices. Okay, like in John Wick, he would see the gunman's hiding behind a pillar or wall, and then he would see his foot sticking out, so he would shoot the foot, so then the gunman would stumble out into view, and then John Wick would shoot him and kill him. Sometimes Chris Hemsworth is like grappling with a policeman or a soldier who's wearing body armor, and Chris Hemsworth shoots him in the chest, right in the body armor. So you're not sure, is that a mistake? Did he have no choice? Was his hand locked by the other guy? So he couldn't really aim the gun anywhere else. So he just shot to like injure him a bit. And then only when a chance later he would shoot him in the head. It wasn't clear. It could have been a fight choreography mistake. It could have been a deliberate choice by the character. So it's just kind of fuzzy. And you don't really see how this guy can take on like 20 armed policemen. Now let's talk about the story. It's quite standard in these kind of action movies that they try and give the characters some kind of dark or sad background. It's usually not convincing. You know that it's there just for the sake of trying to add some depth to the character, or to try and explain why he's suicidal or reckless or something. So you have a similar thing here. In comparison, you have something like Man on Fire, where they spent like, I don't know, maybe 1/3 of the movie developing the relationship between Denzel Washington's character and Dakota Fanning's character. If you actually cut off the movie there, you would actually have a very interesting story without the action, without the kidnapping, without the fighting, anything. That actually made the motivation of Denzel Washington a lot more believable and emotional when Dakota Fanning actually was kidnapped. Or you could actually do it the other way. Spartan, this not very well-known Val Kilmer movie. He plays this a government agent who has been tasked to track down the president's daughter, who has been kidnapped by white slavers. And we don't know anything about his background. But it still works because through his ruthless dedication to the pursuit, we end up admiring him. And so that's also another way to go. Whereas Extraction, and most of these average action movies, they just try to have a rather token character development of the main character's background, and also have this rather sad attempt to build up the relationship between your hero and the person he's looking after. In the case of Extraction, it's a teenage boy. They have these long conversations which seem rather forced. Even though the acting is good, I can't fault them for that. It's a script issue, it's a storytelling issue. Whereas the relationship in Safe between Jason Statham and the Chinese girl is actually better done because it is consistently developed in small scenes sprinkled throughout the movie. In a story, the voluntary suspension of disbelief is important. Even though you know that, come on, this is a movie, that's Chris Hemsworth there, it's not real, but you want it to be real, right? Right from the start, the movie already sounded false because you've got this teenage son of this imprisoned drug lord who's supposed to be guarded, but the security guy looking after him is just in the family house. The movie starts off with the kid hanging out with his friends after school and then coming in late back home. And the security guy, scolds him for not coming straight home. If they really thought that he was in danger, they would have given him a bodyguard, right? At least a chauffeur to make sure that he got back home immediately. Which is what Denzel Washington's character did in Man on Fire. He was the chauffeur and really was around Dakota Fanning most of the time. And the way this kid gets kidnapped is that he just goes out at night and meets his friends at a nightclub. I mean, what? The guards at the house just let him walk out. There were no instructions to keep him in the house. Once you have these kind of really dumb things happening, it just throws you out of the movie. You just stop believing, right? You've got stupid things like the bad guy also. How did the bad guy know where the pickup boat was, and you actually start thinking, maybe there's a spy or a double agent, but there isn't. It was just plot convenience. There was no reason for this movie to exist. Even though it's based on a graphic novel, the story isn't very good. It's why bother uh, making a movie if you're just gonna do things that have already been done? I guess I should have given a spoiler warning at the start. But okay, even more spoiler warnings. The whole thing about the end of the movie is that they have to cross a bridge in order to get picked up by a helicopter. It's a helicopter. Why do you have to cross the bridge? Why they could just land on a building and pick them off from a rooftop anywhere in the city. And that's my review.